See you in Miami, mate. In September of 1996, Screaming Trees were booked for an arena tour of the East Coast. We would be the middle band on a 3-band bill with British superstars Oasis headlining. I liked their music, and I hoped it would be a good time. An opportunity to become friendly with a couple bands whose music I enjoyed. But from the drop, the tour was fraught with tension, mainly between myself and Oasis's ignorant, loudmouthed, and obnoxious lead singer, Liam Gallagher. On the first day, Josh Homme and I were sitting at a table in catering, drinking Cokes, eating some food, and talking quietly, minding our own business. Gallagher burst through the door with an entourage of 2 large, sweatsuit-wearing bodyguard toady types and some other pussy, maybe a journalist or press guy. He came straight up to where we were sitting. "Howling branches," he shouted. I continued eating a bowl of soup and said nothing. "Howling branches?" he demanded, wild-eyed, affecting unhinged intensity. I realized he was addressing me and attempting a weak joke with the over-the-top intensity of a put-down. The corny play on our band name and the rude intrusion mildly irritated me. "Fuck off, you stupid fucking idiot," was my brief, blasé retort, spoken as if to a bothersome mosquito. I was sure it was the first time a member of an opening band had dared to speak what every one of them must have thought when forced to share the same air with this low-rent tyrant. Having dismissed this wannabe badass, I turned back to my soup and conversation with Josh. "What did you say?" Gallagher yelled. "Are you mad?" He launched into a bizarre, lurching half-dance, lunging forward as though to physically attack, only to back up again while gesticulating crazily. He intended for it to look intimidating. He looked fucking pathetic. "You're fucking mad, mate," he yelled. "I'll put you through that wall." I finally looked up at him, and while still seated, soup scream in hand, said, "What are you waiting for, tough guy? I'll fuck you up." This brought on an incredibly bad reaction. He shook his head side to side, palsy-like, as if in disbelief that anyone would have the balls to speak to him that way, and turned to glare at his bodyguards as if to say, "Are you going to let him talk to me like that?" Josh stood straight up, hands tightly curled into fists in anticipation of what looked like was about to turn into an all-out brawl at any moment. "You're going to be sorry, mate. Very fucking sorry, you daft cunt," Liam yelled as he pretended to struggle, while allowing his bodyguard/paid pals to pull him out the door of the cafeteria. Josh howled with laughter. "Damn, he went white as a sheet. He was scared shitless when you stood up to him." "What a fucking moron," I agreed. The next day, our tour manager, Kevin Wilkins, who we had inherited from Alice in Chains, no longer touring due to Lane's aversion to travel, pulled me aside. "Hey buddy, watch your step around Liam. Those big guys with him are thugs he uses as bodyguards. They're gunning for you." I took Wilkins' warning to heart, but if it was a fight Gallagher wanted, a fight he would have. I was not accustomed to taking unwarranted shit off anyone, especially not this entitled rock star who had introduced himself by animately spitting an insult into my face. On day 2, he made it a point to stand directly on the side of the stage while we performed, straight in the sightline of everyone in the arena crowd, arms folded, glaring, in a weak, childish attempt to rattle me. This douchebag clearly didn't have the smarts to quit while he was ahead. His public show of limp-dicked intimidation and disruption of our show was the tipping point. Now I was legitimately pissed off. During the instrumental break in the first song, I let go of the mic. Turning to face him with a dark, expressionless look on my face, I mouthed an unmistakable, "Fuck you." A second later I mouthed, "Come on, motherfucker," a motion for him to come out on stage, extending him an invitation to his own public ass-kicking party. If he was hell-bent on receiving a beating, I could think of no more appropriate place to administer it than in front of 15,000 of his fans. He declined my invite, of course, because he'd left his chaperones backstage so the crowd would think he was a rough-and-tumble lone wolf. Nothing could have been further from the truth. At no other time did I see him unaccompanied by his 2 huge, sweat-suited goons, uncanny clones of the 1970s British wrestler Giant Haystacks, but for their bald domes instead of Haystacks' huge, wild bush of crazy hair. Liam continued to stand there like a petulant child, trying to look menacing at the very edge of the stage, so he was clearly in plain view of everyone who'd come to see his band. Van Connor was the closest to where Liam stood, practically on stage himself. When the second song began, Van started walking in ever-widening circles, passing closer and closer to Liam with every revolution. Finally, as he passed by the fourth or fifth time, clubbed Gallagher directly in the face with the head of his heavy Fender precision bass with vicious intent. The force of the impact nearly knocked Gallagher to his knees. In obvious pain and furious anger, Gallagher began to dance around in a comical manner, as if he were fighting the urge to actually storm the stage and attack Van. Had he done so, our gigantic bass player would have publicly annihilated him. This circus played out in front of the 15,000-plus audience. It made me laugh out loud, his humiliation witnessed by the entire huge crowd, and it couldn't have happened to a more deserving guy. This dickhole had stood right next to our stage, trying to mad dog me the entire time we played our stupid fucking set, just begging for a beatdown. Of course, once I walked off stage looking for him, he was nowhere to be seen. It would take more than one blowhard singer to intimidate the trees. I was a veteran of violence, foreign and domestic. On stage, backstage, rural countryside, big city, barroom, parking lot, pool hall, and alleyway. I'd been an active participant in bus stop, trailer park, housing project, public sidewalk, private party, crack house, dope house, and jailhouse violence that stretched back 15 years or more. I had always had trouble getting along with Lee Connor, and my once close friendship with Van had burned itself out in his resentment over my role in destroying the band's momentum via my addiction and my indignation over his rightly placed blame. Yet we had been conditioned through a lifetime of unending conflict to take every threat as a serious one. We had learned to always strike first whenever an insult had been thrown or a threat insinuated, and to always have each other's backs. We had shut people's mouths on stage and off, while this dude Liam was still shitting in his diapers. Win, lose, or draw, good, bad, or indifferent, the trees never backed down from anybody, particularly not from some bad actor who exuded fake violence and crybaby fear. This clown had accidentally stumbled into the high life, courtesy of his talented older brother, Noel Gallagher. The popularity Liam basked in had evidently uncaged a monster, one without teeth or claws, but a small, irritating monster nonetheless. Success looked to have unleashed his inherent narcissism, his look-at-meism, his transparent, deep-rooted insecurity. But what the fuck did I know? He had probably been a low-life cocksucker his entire life. Maybe he'd been a bedwetter, shit his pants at school, or been cut from football squad as a youngster and never gotten over it. I couldn't believe someone hadn't beaten, knifed, or shot him to death by now. Such was the reckless, witless, and despotic nature of his insufferable facade. Where I was from, a person wouldn't last a week behaving as he did. One day they'd simply disappear, their mangled body discovered years later, haphazardly tossed into a shallow grave somewhere deep in the woods. I reasoned that he was still alive because the unbearable minor league dictator aspects of his buckshot wild, painfully feeble, head injury victim's personality hadn't fully flourished until he'd hit the big time and made enough cash to hire the two giant fucks glued to his hip, paid to shadow him every moment of every day and finish the fights he would indiscriminately start at the drop of his dunce cap. His manner was strongly reminiscent of a child ruined with indulgence, but one with an unpredictable predilection for cruelty and an ocean-sized burning black hole need for attention. I could see him as a kid in short pants on a bright sunny day, gleefully jacking his minuscule dick while frying ants under a magnifying glass. Or maybe these woefully amateur theatrics had been generated and saved up especially for my personal benefit. All I knew was that in my 31 years on Earth, I had never encountered anyone with a larger head or tinier balls, and he had chosen exactly the wrong guy to fuck with. He'd gone out of his way to interrupt my slumber, and I was now wide-ass awake and looking for the first opportunity to throw down. I detested bullies with a smoldering hatred and refused to put up with them. Liam Gallagher was an obvious poser, a would-be playground bully. Like all bullies, he was also a total pussy. Always with the big fucking mouth, as long as he was safely wrapped in the wet nurse security blanket of the company of the two tall, rotund dudes paid to protect, and I assumed suffer his endless stream of bullshit. As day turned to night, I watched from the side of the stage while the power of Crazy Horse blew my mind. When Neil Young began singing The Needle and the Damage Done, I was caught on my heels. My heart went straight up into my throat, the sad majesty of this song I'd heard 1,000,000 times bringing tears to my eyes as I thought about all the friends I'd lost to the scourge of the same heroin addiction I was still fully in thrall of and beholden to. After returning to the States, I was talking to one of the catering guys traveling with the tour I'd become friendly with, he sharing my affinity for crack. "Did you meet Neil?" he asked me. "No, you?" "No, but I was there when that asshole Liam Gallagher did. He was so rude to Neil I wanted to punch him out." This bit of news enraged me. It was one thing to be a prick to me, but how dare that son of a bitch be rude to Neil, one of the all-time greats and one of my heroes. It was the cassette tape of After the Gold Rush that had been my only companion and lifesaver during one of the lowest points of my life. This made my hatred grow to epic proportions and gave me all the more reason and resolve to kick Liam's fucking ass. While walking down the corridor in the Philadelphia Arena home to the 76ers before doors, I came face to face with Liam, flanked by his two huge bodyguards, Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. Heeding Wilkins' warning, I stepped to the side to avoid potentially getting hospitalized by Liam's triple extra-large employees. As they passed, Gallagher turned back and curled his lip in yet another failed attempt to intimidate. A crazy-eyed facial expression with all the scare factor of a Z-grade Steven Seagal. He shouted, "I'll see you in Miami, mate." I stared at him with sharp, dead eyes. "You got it, man." I was going to have to put this putrid piece of shit down. That much was clearly obvious. Yet everywhere he went, his goons went as well. I was in no hurry to walk weaponless onto a battlefield, 1 against 3, especially when 2 of the 3 were gigantic paid ball breakers. Once back in the dressing room, I asked Kevin what the deal was with Miami. "Miami's the last date on the tour, buddy." I broke out into laughter as I realized his Miami comment had been the classic grade school threat of, "I'll see you after class." What is this, fucking kindergarten, I thought? I was a grown fucking man with a lifelong propensity for violence who'd had to literally fight my way out of life-threatening situations in the past. Who did this fucking idiot think he was dealing with? After we played our 45-minute set that night, I was jonesing for a hit. I decided to head to a Philly neighborhood where I'd often scored crack in the past. I got into a cab outside the arena and told the driver where I wanted to go. "Hey fella," he said, "that's a pretty rough neighborhood you're going to." "It's cool, man, I'm no stranger to it." He glanced in the rearview mirror and immediately clocked the sour expression on my face. "If you don't mind my saying so, you look pretty angry, friend. What's the matter?" "I'm working on a job and there's an unstable loudmouth prick there who's been threatening me with violence. I want to take him out, but he's surrounded by these huge dudes who will put me in traction if I do it, or worse. Do you have a spare $10? I pulled a wrinkled $10 bill out of my pants pocket and handed it to him. "Here," he said, handing me a roll of quarters. "Keep these in your fist, and the next time you see him, break his fucking jaw. An asshole like that won't give up until his friends get you down, and he's able to jump in and finish the job once you're hurt. You have got to hurt him first. He won't give up until you're destroyed. You've got to destroy him first." His looking glass into future possibilities and its variety of outcomes had already occurred to me, but it was still refreshing to encounter a dude with the same worldview as myself. This arrogant, spoiled, wounded baby Gallagher was so full of himself that I couldn't put anything past him. Since I had made up my mind I was done with the band, that also meant this dismal Oasis tour. Not wanting to create chaos on the band front for the moment, I told only Wilkins of my decision. but I insisted he first allow the bus to show up at the next arena in order for me to go inside, find Gallagher, and finish what he'd started. There was no possible way I was leaving before I'd taken up my retribution on this cancerous slug. Probably just humoring me, Wilkins said, "Just hold on a second, buddy. Let me go inside and see what's going on. I promise that before I tell them we're quitting, I'll let you go in and take your shot at him." I waited impatiently for 20 minutes, getting intensely worked up. I was finally going to put this fucking cunt in his place, walk the fuck away, and be done with this bullshit charade of the trees and of rock music in general forever. Finally, Kevin came back on the bus. "I don't know how to tell you this, buddy, but the tour is over. Not because of you, but because Liam quit the band and flew back to England last night. The good news is we're being paid for all the remaining shows." He had quit and bailed before I could have a go at him, before his promised playground battle royale in Miami. Typical, I thought. He hadn't sought me out to put me through a wall, with or without his hired gorillas. That phony motherfucker had pissed his pants and gone home to mama before I had a chance to blow this whole thing up myself. Later, an employee of Epic Records asked how the tour had gone. He said they'd been taking bets in the office as to how long it would take for Liam and I to come into conflict. I said whoever put their money on immediately won the pot.